Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Kick Conflict to the Curb, the place that people come, whether you're a department head or a thought provoking individual, to listen to some of the best guests that there possibly could be in this entire world. I bring in guests who have figured out how to kick conflict to the curb. Well, I'm your host, Joyce Weiss, communication coach and queen of conflict resolution. And I support department heads to inspire and educate their direct reports, tired of feeling invisible and overlooked, and are ready to confidently use their voice without losing their cool. The input is respected and recognized, and their expertise is taken seriously. Make sure and stay at the end until the end of the show, where I'm going to invite those of you interested in a discussion group that the Michigan Lean Consortium invited me to lead on my book, Take the Ride of Your Life. Let's get back to the show. I am so excited to learn from our guest today, who is a powerhouse on dealing with conflict in multi front challenges, from boots to badge to boardroom. I'd like to introduce you to our guest. Brent Bruggink is a financial services leader with a diverse professional background. He is a former infantryman and combat veteran turned police officer who successfully transitioned to finance. Today, he leads a team that services over 200 retirement plans and manages over 700 million in assets. Here's an interesting fact about Brent. He spent his 21st birthday flying on a C-17 out of a war zone. Do you see why I've been looking forward to this episode? Welcome to Kick Conflict to the Curb, Brent.
Thanks,
Hello.
Joyce. Hey, Joyce, how are you?
I don't usually have intros like that. That's how I am.
I'm
Hey,
excited.
oh, good, good, good. I don't want to have dull guests, trust me. So, Brent, before we get into the serious stuff, this is serious. Please let us know about your unique experience of flying on a C-17 out of a war zone on your 21st birthday.
Yeah, I was when you turn 21, right? It's fanfare, and you get to go and to hang out with your friends, and you get to enjoy that first drink. And so I find the irony in the fact that my 21st birthday literally was spent flying out of Ramadi, Iraq, into Kuwait. So as I'm turning 17 or 21, excuse me, I'm in the C-17. We're packed in sardines in the back of this gigantic cargo airplane flying us out of a war zone. So I didn't have the traditional 21st birthday party. It was still good because I was leaving a place that I didn't want to be anymore. So I find the positivity in that, but definitely a bit different than most of my friends or people that you know who turn 21 and have a nice party.
Yeah, not too many people have a story like that. I hope you share that a lot with people. Oh my God. Well, boredom definitely is not part of your life. I can tell after, having a chance to get to know you. So, what conflict did you encounter coming back from war to becoming a police officer and leaving law enforcement for finance?
Yeah, so just a myriad on all fronts. I mean, I
Mhm.
think the when I do talk about this, one of the things that come to mind is like coming back from combat, and the big thing for me was I wasn't going to go to college, and so I'm 21 years old. I go into a traditional college program at a college in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I'm sitting in class with a bunch of other students, and I just couldn't help but feel jaded because of everything that I've just experienced, and I'm around these people who have like just I thought had no idea, like just no clue, complaining about certain things. So that was challenging. That was the first, really like the first first taste that I had with understanding like, hey, this is my I'm different in that regard. and I don't relate now to my demographic, the people of my age, people that I should get along with and make friends with and develop relationships with. So that was the first taste of it, was simply just trying to go to college.
Joe, and that is huge, and what an awareness. Yes, you knew that you weren't like them, and I bet you this pattern is still the same because your background, and I know your background. I just introduced you, is extremely unique. So, how did you move beyond that? Because there may be some viewers right now who are saying, wait a minute, I sure don't relate because of my background. I'm having a hard time. So, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, so much of what I've learned, and a lot of it was from being a cop. And I know we'll talk a bit about that. But for me, in that specific instance, like it was tough, and I struggled with it because I would go to class, I'd be so annoyed, and this is a long time ago, right? But
Of
I'd be
course.
so annoyed and trying to understand, like, and just reset myself a bit
Hmm.
to know, like, hey, their experience isn't mine. It's a very different thing, and that, like, trying to understand that, like, my perspective of things and how I can turn it and flip it into like a positive force instead of like a negative force, saying
Hmm.
like, well, they don't get me, they don't. I was like, okay, now how can I use my experience to relate or to shed insight or to learn about these people to try to develop relationships? And I think for me, it was that moment where I'm like, okay, it's not a negative, it's a positive thing. I can flip it 180 and use it to my advantage, right? And shine a positive light on it.
And this is such a leadership strength. And this is what you and I know, and viewers, I'm sure you're going to shake your head like this after I say this, that there's so many leaders who don't know how to get in other people's shoes, and they tell and they expect people to do certain things without even listening
Mhm.
and thinking of what you automatically do, Brent, because of your background, is how to get in other people's shoes. This is, I'm going to use the word huge, but this is so important, and I'm afraid to say that people just they don't get that,
Mhm.
and that shows up on different assessments, hopefully, and they learn. But thank you for that.
Yeah.
And what is the difference, because you touched upon this, between resolving conflict in law enforcement versus the private sector?
Sure. Well, I don't get all the fun tools uh, in the private sector like when I was a cop. So I don't have a gun belt anymore. I don't have all the cool things that come with that. But the difference, in some ways it's gigantic, and in many ways it's not that different at all. It's just how you channel what you
Mhm.
want to do and how you want to do it. So when I was a police officer, the biggest thing was ask, tell, and then make. So if I'm encountering you and I'm eventually going to arrest you or I'm going to do something with you, right? I'm going to put you in handcuffs. I might ask you, hey, listen, this is what's going to happen, and then put your hands behind your back. Let's say that.
Mhm.
And then if you don't do that, I'm going to say, put your hands behind your back. And if you don't do that, then I'm going to make you put your hands behind your back, right? So I've taken these steps. Now I can't do that today in a forceful way, right? In my current field, but I think about it from that aspect, right? Is like, how do I articulate it? And the biggest thing is setting expectations, clear direction on what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, or the conversation that we're going to have. It could be resolving conflict, it could be communicating a project. So
Mhm.
much of it is lost in how we actually communicate with people. And for me, that was the secret to success as a cop, is like, in not all cases, sometimes I need the element of surprise, but in many cases, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Not related going to a doctor's office. When you go to a doctor's office, they don't just take that little rubber hammer thing out and start pounding your knees or stick a tongue depressor down your throat, right? They tell you what they're going to do.
Mhm.
That's so important. It sets the stage. So when I think about resolving conflict in the private sector today, I do the same exact thing. It's setting the stage to have whatever conversation is going to look like. And if it's an awkward conversation, I'll literally say, "Hey, Joyce, listen, is it okay if I'm super honest with you? This is going to be a little bit awkward. Is that okay?" And then I'll bring the barriers down with that, and then I'll go into the conversation. So I can set the stage in that regard too,
Mhm.
similar to how I would set the stage when I'm talking to somebody who's a suspect or who committed a crime.
Well, in my world of kick conflict to the curb, what you do is what I call making conversations safe.
Mm.
And that's when people can figure out in an easy way what you automatically do, Brent. And that is, how do I make sure that that other person knows what the expectations are? How do I get into his or her shoes so
Mhm.
they feel comfortable talking to me? So, making conversation safe is a strategy. You just start with, I want to, I don't want to. And somehow you may not use those exact words, but you do help others make by making conversation safe. I mean, you're shaking your head. So tell me what you heard me say about this and how that makes sense, or if it does to you.
Yeah, it does. And I think that just the premise of making a conversation safe in that
Hmm.
regard, because the folks that I would encounter as a police officer, I'm encountering them literally on the worst day of their life.
Hmm.
They could have just been a witness or a victim of the most heinous crimes, right? And that's, I'm in this situation now with them. So to me, it's every other Tuesday, right? Because this is what I do every single day is experience some of the worst things in this world.
Hmm.
But to them, this is the worst thing. They're going to
Hmm.
remember this forever. It's going to be part of their life forever. It might shape them into who they become later in life. That's how big of a thing this is. And so if I can talk to folks, if I can make it a safe space, if I can ask open-ended questions, if I can create an environment where I'm intentional in my communication, where I'm actively listening to what they're saying. So not listening just to respond, but
Correct.
actively listening, hearing what they're saying, watching their body, watching how they react, then take the conversation from there and guide them and ask them prompting questions and build that rapport and build a level of trust. That's vital. And if you can do that in that environment, like I did, like I do
Mhm.
the same exact thing, right, in my current role.
So, what you automatically do is you help people so they're heard.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
yeah, I just knew. Why did I know that
Yeah.
Brent was gonna say, "Yep," or "Yes," or whatever. That is what you didn't mention that because you were talking about all the great things that you do to make sure, again, that you get their shoes and you understand that it's a big deal for them, even though you face things like this daily. So, making people feel heard, folks, is the big umbrella of what I do. When clients come to me, Brent, usually it's they don't feel heard. They feel invisible. And that's because the leaders, sorry, leaders, the ones that don't do it aren't the ones that come to shows like this, though. They don't hear this special message. Is once you just make people feel heard and listened to, the magic happens. It really does. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, but please stay tuned because we're going to have more conversation with Brent on multi front challenges from boots to badge to boardroom. Come on back when we're done. Are you ready to stop feeling invisible and start feeling confident using your voice? Let's set up a complimentary Jam with Joyce call to improve your relationships and finally get that inner peace. If this is something that you want, send me an email, joyce@joyceweiss.com, and I'll send you my calendar. Little plug, hey, if you don't let the people know about you, they won't. So,
True.
welcome back to the show, everybody. You're watching Kick Conflict to the Curb. I'm Joyce Weiss, and let's continue the conversation with Brent. So, Brent, here's a tough question as I fold my arms. Did you ever have a tough conversation with colleagues or leaders that you'd like to share? And if so, how did you resolve it?
Yeah, that's a good night. There's so many. Yeah, there's a lot of examples that come to mind to mind instantly. I'll give you maybe a quick one
Oh,
that was
sure.
was really recent, right? So it was with an employee. He started to struggle in the current role that he was in, I knew he had a good skill set. I knew he had a good knowledge base and experience, but the role had changed a little bit from when he was initially hired. And then I came in to take over the team, and so things had changed, morphed a bit, and I saw a lack of performance, underperformance, which wasn't the norm or the history with him. And so a lot of it was due to the role changing. And so I had to have the conversation with him. We put him on the typical things, performance improvement plan, and the warnings and the talking about it, and all that good stuff happened. But I started to see more into it. And I said, hey, I think his skill set's better used in this role with this team. And I think in my head, I'm like, I think if he could just admit it, he'd be like, oh, that does make sense. And so I had to have the conversation with him. I started it that way. Hey, can I be super straightforward with you? Is it okay if I'm just honest and direct? Is that all right? Because this could be a little bit awkward, but I want to have a good conversation with you. And yep, he said, yes, let's do it. And we went through and we talked about the lack of performance, which was causing issues with the team, causing issues with clients. And then I brought in this other data. Hey, what about this? What about this? And I could start to see as I'm listening and I'm watching his response, I could start to kind of see the dots connecting in his brain almost that, oh, this is interesting. This could be a thing. Right. And so we had to have an awkward conversation about that lack of performance and how that was negatively impacting things. But unfortunately, in this situation, I was able to turn it around and redirect him to this new team where he's already in it and adding an incredible amount of value, just taking it by storm and doing some wonderful, wonderful things. And so I think if you didn't have that conversation, what would have happened? A lack of performance, and that ultimately be terminated.
Oh, absolutely. And because you took the elephant out of the room, and this is part of making the conversation safe, which you did, is you asked him permission, and you were also setting up the expectations of that this isn't going to be a real easy conversation for me to have with you, employee. The thing is, I want to have it. And that by doing that, you set it up so that how could he say no to that?
Yeah, and I like to do that. I mean, I think about the way I frame things sometimes, and I'm thinking, well, is a reasonable person going to say no? Of course, you'll find somebody who's just a complete jerk, and they're going to say, maybe they say no to you. But
Sure.
9 times out of 10, you can set up a conversation to where they're going to enter that conversation with you. And regardless, for my position, it's going to happen. Like this conversation is going to happen. We
Sure.
both know that it's going to happen. Let's just do it in the most productive, honest, open, direct, clear way possible to make sure that we check the boxes, the expectations are set, you hear what I'm saying, I hear what you're saying, right? And then we can come to, the direction we're going to go from here, right? So that's the biggest thing for me, again, is setting the expectations and being clear and concise. And if it's going to be weird, just say it. Hey, this is going to be really weird. This is going to be awkward. Because it's going to be, it is. Everybody's had those conversations, whether it's an awkward, weird conversation. I just say it.
Okay, I'm going to push back. I'm going to pretend that I'm a bully. And I'm not only a bully, Brent, I'm also a narcissist. And I don't really want to have this conversation with you. I don't know who you think you are. I've been here for 20 years. Who do you think you are to tell me? How would you handle a person when you say, would you be okay if I'm blunt and all the good stuff that you say? What would you say then? Or what would you do if this person said, no way?
Yeah, so I'll still start it that way. And many times, like you already know who you're going to go talk to, right? So
True.
I'll typically go in the same direction. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I would say, unless the person is I know just going to blow their gasket, then I'll probably push a little bit differently. But if you were to push back and say, we're not having this conversation, actually, Joyce, we are going to have this conversation because this is where the table's set, right? So we'll do it this way a bit. I'll shift. And I'll step in and say, no, this is going to happen, right? This conversation needs to be had, and this is how we're going to conduct it from here on out. So that's that ask, tell, and make almost that I used as a cop back to a corporate environment. I mean, I'm just not going to put them in handcuffs and put them on the conference table, right? But
Thank you.
100%, I'll then establish the authority of what's going to take place because as a leader, the conversation needs to happen regardless. And then 2, I always tell people too, I'm like, hey, you can help control the outcome of this to a degree, and your attitude can dictate that. And so I'll be very clear with people too. It's like, hey, listen, this it's going to happen, right? So Joyce, it's going to happen, right?
Wow. Yeah.
How you react to it's going to dictate the way it happens, right? Would
Mhm.
you rather it be a smooth conversation that's clear and direct, or do you prefer it to be, full of like anxiety, conflict, argumentative? Like, which option would you rather choose? Right.
So, and I know maybe I overreact when I went, oh, wow. But this is the kind of stuff, these are the communication tools that people need when they come and watch a show like Kick Conflict to the Curb. Because when someone says, no, I don't want to have it, and they roll their eyes or whatever, when you say, well, we're still going to have the conversation. And the outcome has all to do with attitude and how you react, or you said
Mhm.
it better than I did, but that was the gist of how you said it. Viewers, please, talking your truth and taking the elephant out of the room is what many people who say, oh, I don't like conflict, I can't have these conversations.
Mhm.
Well, most people don't. I love conflict because that's why I get paid. And my kids are always saying, Mom, you look for conflict. No, I don't look for it. It's always there.
Mhm.
I just decide, am I going to deal with it, or am I going to just let that one go? And Brent, you don't let it go when someone pushes you and says, no, I don't want to hear. So hats off to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so, like, you like conflict, like I kind of like awkward situations. I'm weird like that, right? So, being a cop, you're in awkward situations all the time. Like, I mean, if you ever watch the show Cops, just watch it, and you'll see the things that I was encountering every day.
Yeah.
The weirdest stuff. And so it's interesting to me. So I don't mind an awkward conversation because I like to watch how people react to awkward
Hmm.
conversations. I think we can learn a lot by that, and then think about how we respond, how we react to an awkward conversation, because we've all had them. We've all been on either one
Hmm.
side or both sides of an awkward conversation. So if if I'm going to have a conversation with you, Joyce, and we're going to talk about something like you're not performing at work and it's you're about to be terminated, right? You know it's coming nine
Yes.
times out of ten. Like, you've got a good idea of why we're going to go talk. And if I've done a good job as a leader, I've set those expectations, and none of it's a surprise to you. That's the other bit of it. Like, none of it should be a surprise to you because we've documented, we've talked about it, we've tried
True.
to improve your performance.
Hmm.
But it's awkward for both people. Just say it. That's a huge that's my tip. I'll put it out there because
Just say it.
it's strange.
Okay, what about the leaders who are watching, either live or later on the recording, who aren't as bold and as direct as both of us are? And there's a reason why we are, because of our background. But there's so many leaders who may be saying, I can't do that. What is one very easy tip that you would tell the people who don't like conflict and they don't like strange encounters
Mhm.
to do to make sure that their employees, their direct reports feel heard? One small idea that you can give them.
Yeah. Oh, this is a good question. I think just
Well, thank you.
be so be intentional with how you
Mm,
communicate. Like, you don't always have to be like so direct. And I think for me, my background, it's a bit different because I can come in to a conversation, into a room, and I can just take charge and do the things that I need to do. But to set your team up for that clear conversation is like, just be intentional with it. So when you're going to communicate, just focus on being in the moment and intentional. And then with that, the little add on is, how would you want to be communicated with if I was underperforming, right?
mhm.
And I've got to have a conversation with myself. How would I want it to be communicated to me? Would I want it to be just somebody not telling me exactly what to do or what the problem is or dancing around everything? Or would I rather have somebody in a polite, kind way, say, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what needs to be improved upon. Here's examples of what you can do. Like, I think about it from that perspective too. It's like, hey, if this was me on the other side of the table, how would I want somebody to talk to me?
That is really an excellent answer to the question that you liked. And let me tell you why. If I were shy and I didn't like conflict. And I asked my question, what you just posed. How would I like to have this conversation with someone posing the tough stuff on me? I would then say, well, at least I want to have someone be honest with me. Maybe
Mhm.
not in a real aggressive or bold or direct way. And bold, direct, aggressive, it maybe it sounds too strong for some people. So then make it so it fits for you. But
Mhm.
at least to say something and not just say, oh, okay, and go the next. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now, I got to ask, because of your background, how has being a veteran and police officer shaped your professional career? I mean, you shared some of it already,
Mhm.
but you've got such an intense background, let's say. How has that shaped your career?
I, I think so much of it, outside things we talked about, like empathy, communication, being direct. I think the thing that I haven't necessarily hit on yet that it really helped me with is adaptability.
Oh,
So being a veteran, being a cop, being in the infantry, training for war, being in a war zone, and then being a police officer, I was on special operations. So I did SWAT team, I did K9, I did street level gang and drug enforcement. So you constantly have to be able to adapt to the situation that you're in. I think that's taught me a lot in where I'm at today in my career. I think adaptability is a hugely valuable and underrated soft skill. It allows you to shift, to pivot, to strategically react to all situations and circumstances, whether somebody is shooting at you or goes
mm,
to fight you, or the plan that you had to communicate to clients didn't work out, or the data wasn't right, or a project didn't meet its deadline, or you've got an underperforming employee and you have to think of a
mhm.
backup plan. What's the contingency plan to think about, spread out the workload if that person's terminated, right? All of those
Sure.
things require a level of adaptability to successfully complete or encounter. I think that has been one of the biggest things, outside of communication and outside of being able to empathize and actively listen. Adaptability.
So adaptability in my world, I call it flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
They're not exactly the same. And I find that when people plan for that perfect fill in the blank um, conversation with a client, a good conversation, let's say, or a tough conversation with a direct report, you better be ready for adaptability and flexibility because something like you've said during this entire interview could be thrown in your face and it just knocks you off,
Sure.
and you got to be ready for that, and you sure are. And I just have appreciated getting to know you, Brent. I mean, you're solid, you're so much fun. And I got two last questions.
Yeah.
What is something in your toolbox that is your number one priority that you must do to keep your sanity?
Ooh, to keep my sanity. It might already be
Yes.
gone, honestly, Joyce. I don't know if I've got much to keep. Because because of all the things I've done. I don't know. There might be a little bit left. I think, for me, something that's just being that I still struggle with, honestly, that I want to continue to get better at is purposeful time with my family. So
Ah.
being able to separate is huge. I'm not super great at that all the time. So it's
Mhm.
something I want to improve on, but it's just being purposeful in my time away from work and trying to separate some of that. It's super difficult for me. It's very difficult to do. Um, Up until my transition to finance, like every job I've done, like in the army, being a police officer was an identity. It wasn't like a job. It was you identify as a police. I'm a police officer all the time, right? I'm a
Mhm.
soldier all the time, and so I carry that into some of my current career, like in finance, like being an investment advisor, a director of teams. Like I struggle sometimes with that identity. I'm that, but no, really, I'm not. Right? That's my career field for sure. But if I could make a tool sharper in my toolbox to save my sanity, it would be that one.
Wow, that's yeah, I had no idea what was gonna come out of your mouth, and that one, it makes so much sense, and matter of fact, I'm gonna talk about balance when oh my god, this is I'm like, out of words. I'm going to talk about something in my closing that pertains to exactly what you're saying. So don't get out of the studio when I'm closing, okay?
Yeah.
So, first of all, the last question, will you please come back?
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure, Joyce, getting to know you over the past few months and when working with you. And it's an honor to be invited and talk about any of these types of things. So if you want me back, just let me know. I'd be happy to do so.
Oh, take off the if. I want you back.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Definitely. Plus, folks, Brent was so good at sharing all the posts and inviting people. So if you're ever a guest on a show, please, or a podcast, make sure that you're just as good as he. So if people want to get in touch with you on LinkedIn, would you please read it just in case they're listening and not watching?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can always look me up on LinkedIn, Brent Bruggink. It's a crazy Dutch last name, but I'm on LinkedIn all the time, posting and sharing and clicking like and commenting and not only consuming content but also trying to post content, of course. And then you can also give me a shout. I've got my contact information there, my email's on there as well. LinkedIn, I'm on it all the time, so it's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
That's great.
Or you can reach out to me through my firm, CG Financial Services, tremendous financial services organization, headquartered in outside of Lansing, but we've got outreach across the country. So.
Oh, that's excellent. So people, please connect with Brent because he really creates fun posts. Also, it's not all serious. You could tell from the kind of guy he is.
No, yeah,
Well,
you check out my memes. I'm a 401k meme master, so you can look at my 401k related memes.
I'm looking forward to the next one. Well, listen, thank you so much, and you will be back.
Thanks, Joyce. I appreciate it.
Thanks. So, if you enjoyed today as much as I did, um, I have listening to Brent Bruggink. He will be back. I invite you to a complimentary virtual discussion of my book, Take the Ride of Your Life. It's Thursday, this coming Thursday, June 27th at 4 p.m. And this is going to be just what Brent was talking about, that he needs more. It's about how to enjoy going to work, how to find more balance, and how to find more fulfillment in your life. So here's the link that if you want to sign up, you go to michiganlean.org. And immediately on that page, that you're going to find out that there's a link that says upcoming events. Underneath that is a lean book discussion group, Take the Ride of Your Life. You sign up, you'll get the link. It's complimentary. I'd love to see you there. You don't need to read the book. So, for those of you who are watching the show after the wonderful discussion that the Michigan Lean organization in Michigan is putting on, you still get a chance to get 2 copies of my VIP special that talks about, again, how to enjoy going back to work, getting a fulfillment in life. And the special is 2 books for the price of 1. And how do you know if that's for you? Well, if you want to have more fun in your life and you want more balance, like Brent sure does, then maybe that's right for you. So, how does this sound? If this is something that you want, just go to Joyce at joyceweiss.com and in the subject line, write Take the Ride of Your Life, and I will send you a link so you can find out more details about it. Well, I want to thank all of you for watching. It just means so much when I get the feedback that I do. And Brent Bruggink was just a wonderful guest. I want to thank him. And until next time, I invite you to join me and make sure and remember you get what you tolerate.